I'm the nature hacker, and this is your world. Today I want to talk about the Renaissance and the tech revolution, recent. The Renaissance was roughly 600 years ago, and there's a new age every 666 years. Starting from roughly 15 AD. The last age, the Renaissance, it was the age of the black horsemen. So, there was a horseman on the horse, black horse that was carrying the scales and say, basically saying there's going to be famine, but, that the oil and the wine would be fine, and, also with the death. So it was started in 1347, which was the Black Plague started, which is exactly 666 years from 2013, when this new age, the age of the Pale Horse, started. So in the banker age, if you look at the history, there was a good History Channel thing on the Medici, which were actually the bankers who funded the Renaissance. So, it was like, these bankers, they ruled. So, they had all this money, and they're like, hey, we will loan this money out or whatever. And they got the Renaissance going. People like Michelangelo, who was like a really tough character, and, nobody could tame him, but he was an amazing artist, and so they, the bankers got to him and, funded him and whatever, and the rest is history. That was the Renaissance. So the Renaissance was funded by the bankers in the last age. Now, this age is not the age of the bankers anymore. This is the age of cults. This is the cult age. The Pale Horse, the age of cults. So, who are the bankers of this era? Well, they are the cults and the cult leaders. So I was just watching Jobs, the 2013 Steve Jobs movie, and Steve Jobs was the only one who could get these rebels, these renegades, these people who were independent, couldn't be tamed and stuff. He got them together to create something. So it's exactly a mirror of the Renaissance. But what we have to understand is the Renaissance was not good. The Renaissance was funded by the bankers. And it just marked the beginning. It was the honeymoon period. It's like when the bankers took over at first, it seemed great. They're giving us money to do what we want to do, But we all know where that went. Where we just were. So, the age of the bankers, not good. It turned out to be horrible. And it's going to be the same with the cults, like the cult of Mac, Steve Jobs, and all of these cults starting now. They might seem good, Mormonism's a cult, and Jehovah's Witness, and Scientology, and all sorts of stuff, all sorts of different cults, ISIS, Anonymous, Occupy, especially Occupy and Anonymous, they seem good, Apple seemed good too, it was a cult. So it's that honeymoon period. It's just like the Renaissance was the honeymoon period of the bankers. The tech revolution is the honeymoon period for the cults. So, don't join the cults, blah, 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 but I just think you should know. You just need to know. It's just important to know what is really going on behind the scenes and where we are at in the history of the world. So, I think that is important. I'm one of those people who I could easily be a cult leader. I could easily attempt to manipulate people. I could do all of the right things, and I could dress up in a suit and get a haircut and shave and smell nice and all of this stuff, and I could go up the ladder, and I could start my own company and get funding, get angel and what do you call it? VC, venture capitalist funding and stuff. I could do exactly what Steve Jobs did easily. But I recognize what's going on behind the scenes. So that's an evil thing to do. To go through all that and do all that, because it's just manipulation. It's just riding the wave, and it's not going to end up doing good. It's going to end up doing evil for people. So I'm going to do it the right way, the way that the founding fathers did: sole proprietorship and partnerships, things like that. No corporations to try to avoid personal responsibility. Say, oh, the corporation is a person, and that person can get disciplined. But if people in the corporation cause damage to people or hurt people, they're not personally liable or whatever. So I just think it's a way to dodge personal responsibility, and yeah, it's a socialistic thing. A corporation is a socialistic entity. It's straight socialism, and it's a perfect case study in socialism. The people at the top get all of the money, and the people, the workers, all make roughly the same, or you don't make, like, let's say you're creating iPhones or something. You're not making the money from the iPhone. You're just getting a small socialized wage. It doesn't matter how many iPhones sell, you're still getting your small socialized wage. So it's a corporation is a perfect study in socialism. So they are evil, they're unconstitutional. Corporations were explicitly outlawed in the Constitution. They said only, corporations can only be temporary, only if they're really needed, and they have to be granted by, like, Congress or something like that for temporary, and then they would be disbanded once the short-term goal was completed. So obviously the founding fathers knew that corporations were horrible, and that was a big problem in England, was the corporations that just amassed everything. So they were outlawed, but now we overturned the Constitution, so that's why corporations exist. So get out of corporations, don't join cults, be a sole proprietor, or form partnerships, none of this other stuff. So thanks for watching. I am the Nature Hacker. Do work.